All right.
Hey, good evening, guys. Hey, sorry for the bad voice. I have a bad throat cold. But anyway, we're here, all of us. Darren Harvey, 9/11 geopolitical researcher. How you doing, pal?
Hey Adam, how you doing?
Of course, 9/11 filmmaker, Avant, DJ Thermal Detonator. Nelson, what's up, brother?
How you doing?
We are Change LA. Ed Brotherton, bro. How you
What's
doing?
up? Good, man. Good.
Sean Russell, geopolitical researcher. What's up, pal?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me.
And of course, a special guest with us, a guy who's actually been following Barbara Honegge longer than all of us, and has intimate details about her past and stuff relating to October surprise in the Reagan administration, all the way up to 9/11. Simon Faulkner, what's up, brother?
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play some video clips of Barbara Honegge. At the end of the video clip, we're going to basically critique the points that she makes in the video. Now, I'm going to tell you where I got the video from after I share the screen right here. I'm going to share the screen right here with you. Hey, this video is about 4 minutes, 53 seconds long, and it was conducted by Richard Gage's 9/11 Unleashed, the Pentagon conference, which was a 10-hour conference. And this is the first video I clipped out. Let's see what she has to say.
In Wedge 1. The released videos, we're going to see them, some of them, do not support the official story of a wall impact at almost 9:38 or that the plane was Flight 70.
And by the way, to anybody in this room, if you want me to stop to address certain points, just let me know.
And we're going to see, we're going to go through these in more detail, but this is the list. The videos that were released originally, the first 5 frames, and then the 2 outside security camera videos that have the 5 frames within them that were later released in 2006 in the Moussaoui trial by the FBI have no original timestamp or date stamp that's visible. It was removed. The videos were doctored to show part of a plane approach.
You want to stop real quick? I'm sorry.
Yeah, sure, please.
Yeah, I want to address that. No original timestamp. There were 2 gentlemen who was working on the security system for the Pentagon at the time of the attacks. Those guys were did an interview, and they were discussing, the security cameras, et cetera. And the reason why there was no original timestamp on the video footage is because there was when there's a glitch in the system where when they output, it actually timestamped it to the output of when the video was outputted, not when it was actually captured on video. So it was that was the glitch in the system. They fixed that. That's why you had a timestamp date. It's not that it didn't have an original timestamp. It did, but the date was from the day after when they actually retrieved the footage, because when they retrieved the footage, it timestamped it when they retrieved it, not when it was actually recorded.
The 2 gentlemen you're referring to is Steve Pennington and Brian Austin.
That's right.
They actually did a oral history on November 9th, 2006, and that's recorded, actually. So they do talk about why there isn't a timestamp. Now, there's another video, of course, that she didn't bring up. Maybe she will in this, where it shows a wrong timestamp, but it shows that the day after. I think it's September.
Yeah, that's the one I'm referring to. I think.
Yeah, basically the reason why it shows that timestamp was because that's the time it was ripped. It was.
That's right. That's correct. That's what I was talking about. Yeah.
Right. So here we go.
Dispositive only of an explosion and fireball at or near the wall beyond the heliport firehouse, not of a plane. Okay, I'm leaving off the one that's in yellow because I couldn't find that slide. The known dispositive videos. Dispositive is a legal term for you can prove it in court to a jury or a judge. The known dispositive videos that the FBI has, we know they have them, have been withheld by the FBI and the government. And most importantly, as we will see, the Sheraton Hotel roof video camera videos have been withheld. Numerous other videos have also been withheld. Many, many, many of them. We have proof of that now. Other released videos that have been released aren't important, and they also have the wrong time for the alleged impact. The DoubleTree Hotel security camera video digital clock reads 9:34 and 10 seconds. It's not anywhere close to the official story alleged impact time of almost 9:38. Same thing for the Citgo gas station security camera video digital clock that has been released. Now we're going to go through these. This is a frame, a very important frame. It's the second frame, frame 24, from the security camera video, the first security camera video that was released, and with the 5 frames. And you will see down below it says September 12th, and it says 5:37
That's the video
in
we're
the
talking
afternoon.
about.
Yeah.
Well, we know the reason for that, and that's because that was when the Pentagon and the FBI say that the frames were downloaded from the security camera. But the original, believe me, the original security camera has the date and time stamp, which they don't want you to see. Okay, why?
Oh.
Massimo Mazzucco
I love how you just
himself.
said that. It's like,
Yeah,
believe
without
me,
any evidence. To
believe
support-
me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Richard has interviewed him on his podcast. He and his colleague have done a digital video analysis of the frames in those 2 outside security camera videos. And his analysis is very clear that at least one, if not both, were doctored. I'm not going to take the time to go through this, but please do watch it. And at the bottom gives you the link when my PowerPoints slides
And
are
Barb,
put up.
sorry, we'll have your PowerPoint up on the description for this session soon
Yes.
tonight, right?
Yes, I will get it to you after the presentation.
Yeah. go ahead.
Okay, so be sure and go to Massimo Mazzucco's Pentagon, the part 4 of his Pentagon documentary, the 9/11 in
Hey,
Newport
Adam, can you
Harbor.
stop it for one
Yeah,
second?
sure.
Just want real quick, Masamio Masuko. Just want to let you know that he also believes the FBI did the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, and that Ramzi Youssef was the informant. So, just want to give you a quick update of what that guy thinks. So,
Well,
Maybe-
not only that, Darren, the bigger thing is that the following film he did right after that is about the moon landing being fake. He's a
Yes.
moon landing denier. Once you've crossed that line, you've lost credibility. Of course, we know what you're going to push in conspiracy theories.
yeah, so that just shows right there that her source is
Questionable.
probably not the most legit one. So I
Right.
just want to bring that out.
And he's Italian too, so yeah.
And start at 18:30 minutes in, and you will see the analysis. Okay, and here again are the 2 key frames that he analyzed, that his video digital analyst analyzed. And these are key frames 23 of both of the 2 security camera videos. The video camera 1 that the 5 frames were released from in early 2002. And then this one was also released, the security camera from which, close to the first one. And it comes from that camera is on this side of this post. So when you get to this security camera, you have a clear view of what is blocked by these 2 posts in the first security camera video. And so again, no date and time stamp. They don't want you to know the time. That's very important, because everything in this presentation will show you that the actual time of the plane destruction at the Pentagon was 9:32 and 30 seconds, approximately over 5 minutes before the alleged impact time, over 150 feet further to the right or the south along the west wall. Okay. So these 2 frames over here, we're supposed to believe that that's the nose of the plane right there. But you just have to watch Massimo Mazzucco's analysis.
Oh boy, there's a lot to unpack. Who wants to go first?
Well, yeah, where do you begin? I love how this is the problem with Barbara with a lot of her claims, that she doesn't, it's like, please believe me, trust me. They don't want to know this because this, it's all speculation. She's just like, she doesn't know why something exists, therefore she just makes something up in order to, and then puts that forward as the reason without knowing for sure. So And that's what bugs me about her with respect to her the way she does research.
Can I say something about this?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's kind of funny is that Craig McKee was the one that promoted this particular section of the video about the claim about the video being doctored. And his article was responded to by Adam Taylor. He wrote some articles for AE, and he wrote for a blog debunking the debunkers of 9/11 truth. He was a quite good researcher at the time. I think it's maybe 2015, 14, something, and he wrote a rebuttal article to going over exactly how you debunk these claims. And I think Craig McKee he never answered, or he kind of just and I think Adam ended up writing him 2 articles, kind of reminding him to why don't you respond to the critique? But of course, Craig McKee, you know who he is, so he couldn't do it. But he never retracted his article or did anything. And I think Adam Taylor confronted Craig on Facebook, I think we do or something, of this very same thing. And it's just kind of one of those things where something has been answered, something has been gone over, addressed, and they ignore it. They are cycling the same claims, and they keep advertising the same thing. And it's Barbara was saying this is only a few months ago, right? This is
It's suspicious, isn't it? It's like it's
6 or 7 years later, it's still being promoted like has never been addressed, like no one has ever looked into it. It just shows, I mean, she's not a researcher. I mean, this is just a recycling old thing, like that other people have stopped promoting it because they know it's been answered. But Barbara doesn't do that. She's unaware, or she doesn't keep up with rebuttals. So I'm sorry, it just makes it again now. Like
fine. Simon, your sound is coming in and out. It's almost like it's pretty friction at times.
Oh yeah, it's very very coarse. I mean, it's like really it's strange.
It's garbled.
But we were actually able to understand what you were talking about with
were
Adam Taylor, but it was criggly. I mean, like, yeah.
Okay.
But
sounds good now. That's funny. It's
okay.
Other than that, yeah, look, I have to follow up on that because Barbara Honegge seems to make, especially in her 2013 presentation at Seattle, in the 10-hour lecture. I mean, she had an hour and a half to speak. Whenever she speaks, I notice one thing, a consistent finding is that she makes a slew of statements, and she has a lot of like PowerPoint slides, and all of the stuff that she presents and says are basically, take it on my word, very few referenced articles outside of the truth movement. Now that's not how you do researches, right? You don't go by the words of the very people who agree with you. So you have to go outside of that spectrum and go to people who are not within the truth or debunker community in order to really make your statements with any validity. I mean, basically what I'm trying to say is, if you're basically looking at 9/11 and automatically saying it's an inside job, are you actually going to read anything from Paul Thompson or Kevin Fenton? No, you're going to go read David Ray Griffin and other like Massimo Mancuso, right? You're not going to. You're basically not doing yourself due diligence. That's what I'm trying to say.
The really funny thing about that is, though, when you know her history of her October Surprise book and the mistakes she did there, using basically con artists and bullshit artists as sort of witnesses. So if she was a real researcher, she would have learned something from that experience. But she's still doing exactly the same thing. Exactly the same thing, just sloppy research.
But it's even questionable, like what she was doing before she was even writing that book, because she had that whole thing with accusing the Reagan administration of sexism, and it's just she was really criticizing the media because it just she comes off really goofy from even that point, and she was already talking about like I'm going to come out with a book already, so she was already hyping it up, but she did not look good in 1983. I can tell you that.
That's a lot of the White House officials said about her. She wouldn't keep it in-house. She would always go to the public, and that's why they couldn't really stand her. They ostracized her for that because she wouldn't talk among them. She'd go to the public. It was almost like she wanted to be the hero, right? She wanted the focus to be on me. Look at Barbara. Look what I'm doing. And that's per the White House officials saying that. So, yeah, I see what you're saying there, Nelson, for sure.
Yeah, she has a niche already for like knowing like the power of media and just publicity. Just she has like through her education and stuff, she was like very outgoing and involved in plays and in 4-H and things like that. Like she was always kind of covered even in her local press a little bit. So she's used to that, and then there's a lot of questions of what she got involved with later on, but I don't think we need to really go in. So, but I think we just should just continue.
Just to quickly follow up on Ed's point earlier, which was I think the biggest point of all, is that she mentions that they needed to fabricate the time. I mean, but at the same time, I don't need why would they not? If they're going to fabricate the time on a camera, why would they allow 86 people to basically go to the media and say, hey, yeah, I saw the crash on September 11, 2001. You would have to basically facilitate 86 people saying in the same time frame or whatever you're making a claim is outside of September 11, 2001. The one video about Pennington and Austin's statements to the oral history department at the Pentagon was that they ripped the video on September 12th, right? That's something that Ed brought up. Well, okay, how does that line up to the 86 people who saw the plane on September 11, 2001? I mean, it's almost like she doesn't make the connection here. And I think with, what I said before about all these statements and PowerPoints that she makes so much of them, so many of them, as you're going to see in the next 5 videos, that I think, this is what I think. I don't know if it's true. I think she's basically trying to overwhelm the audience to where they're not going to basically research the points that she's making and say, hey, sounds about right.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of anomalies to just distract and the thing I was going to say, I should have said too, is take for example, she goes over the cameras and there's no zoom. She doesn't zoom anything like that. She doesn't say, well, what's coming into focus or anything like that. And then in regards to, being that it's the Pentagon thing, when it comes to David Chandler and Coste, they had no chance to get the show and do a close up and, show that, it's an American Airlines plane. You just can't see it, just really pixelated, but you can tell by different colors, different patterns that it's right behind the box in one angle, and you can see it, and that's not done here at all. So
John, do you have anything to say?
Well, she's pointing out camera frames, but shouldn't camera frame rate be considered when we're looking at what this video is capturing? Basically, she's showing us that the video isn't capturing an airplane, but what are the odds that the video would even capture the image of the plane based on the frame rate?
Yeah,
exactly right.
Really good point.
Yeah.
All right, so what we'll do is the second video is taken from the Richard Gage conference, and
one thing before we leave that I have to is another example of normally when you would make presentation like that, you're supposed to mention if someone has tried to refute what you're saying, and this is one of the things that Coste and Chandler have addressed, those video frames. Chandler has a video especially about that, and he showed. No, it was Ken Jenkins who made the video. It's called "Seeing the Pentagon Plane" or something like this.
Oh yeah.
It's
Pentagon
showing they
plane
go
puzzle.
over how it actually show how you can actually see that it's the A8 jet.
Oh yeah.
But normally she would have to mention that video and go over that, why they are wrong about that. But it's just another example that she just skips over it and repeats the same old claim like it's just. So it's another example of the same thing.
Yeah, that's a really
Yeah,
good point.
great point. Yeah.
That's a really good point.
Also, with Ken Jenkins and David Chandler's work on seeing the Pentagon plane, Simon, they're factoring in also the lens type. It's the warped lens in order to try to see more area, right? And that deforms the image.
Yeah.
So even what is shown is warped.
Yeah, because the
wide-angle
building
lens-
is like a mile.
Yeah, wide angle lenses.
Exactly.
Wide angle lenses are typically going to give you a much more distorted image. You're going to have curves on your edges, things like that. And especially in that time frame, there wasn't a lot of technology out there to straighten those curves out. There's Photoshop and stuff, but it wasn't as good as it is today. But yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, there's all kinds of things to take consideration. You got your lens, you got your frame rate, you got your shutter speed, all those things, and so all those things have to be taken into consideration when analyzing these videos.
All right. The second video is basically from the Richard Gage conference, and let's see what she has to say on this one.
What about a missile from a helicopter? You're going to see more about this later, about this important helicopter that was buzzing around the Pentagon, helipad, and going over to I-395 and coming back for almost 5 minutes before that plane came in and was destroyed by the helipad. Cheney acknowledged having ordered the shoot down of Flight 93 to Chris Plant. You can see it at that. And from the NORAD tapes, quote, 93 is down. Flight 93 is down northeast of Camp David. Confirmed. This is a quote on the tapes. He, meaning the plane, exploded. He exploded. If we have to take anyone else out, I recommend we use A9 missiles. I've got Cheyenne Mountain, which is NORAD headquarters, on the line. We're now terminating all exercise inputs onto the screens. And that was only after the last plane went down, Flight 93. So, that's to prove that the military is not only willing and able to use missiles to take down planes, but they did on 9/11. A Marine Corps military helicopter was flying between I-395, as I said, and the Pentagon helipad for almost 5 minutes, 4 minutes and 42 seconds, just before the plane flew in. We'll get to the plane here in a moment. And took off only 3 seconds, effectively simultaneously, just before the plane exploded there into a fireball.
Oh yeah.
What about a missile from a helicopter?
Yeah. So there it is.
Wow,
There's so
the
much
missile
on
from
there.
the helicopter.
A helicopter.
The
Yes,
missile from,
Nelson.
because it goes to a helipad, right? Not
Right.
a helipad. Not a helipad.
There's a lot of deception right there.
Yeah.
This is the point too about with truthers is they're obsessed with this shoot down order. So well, okay, so what's the issue if it was shut down? Wasn't it part? Isn't that protocol?
Thank you. Isn't that what they're bitching about?
That's what I'm saying. So what are they bitching about? Now, was it shot down? No, but even if it was, what's the issue?
Yeah, the government was screaming at the mountain from the mountaintops. See, we saved lives. Yeah. Unfortunately, we had to take out a plane, but we saved lives.
Yeah,
they didn't reach its target. That was one of the complaints. Why didn't the plane get intercepted by our military? Well, if they did, why would they hide it?
Well, they even brought up F-16s there, but they weren't armed.
That's right.
They were trying to ram it, and that's per the pilots that said that they were willing to almost, they said maybe give their life to try to get that plane. But yeah, there's a lot of deception what she said there, especially with Cheney.
Oh, let's not forget the missile shooting out of the freaking helicopter. And,
Yeah,
Well, yeah. I mean, how many things do you need to fake? I mean, it's just like God. I mean,
and why is it why is it not on the security footage there? You know,
the wrong plane hits the wrong spot, but a hole still gets made from explosives inside. Well, there's a helicopter that shoots a missile. What the hell is that? What for?
Yeah, but she just goes right by it, doesn't explain it. So it's like she's you know, it's just absolutely absurd.
Yeah, the helicopter that was seen in the Pentagon, which actually you could Google Pentagon military medical helicopter, which basically was taking off out of the heliport. There was also another helicopter that was seen flying around the Pentagon, and yes, it lasted like around 4 minutes long. Basically trying to pick up the injured and wounded afterwards because it basically came back. So I don't know what she's talking about.
This is what I'm saying too. Is there one eyewitness that saw a helicopter shoot a missile?
No.
None.
Okay. Okay. So it's basically what she's just purporting this idea.
And if there was an eyewitness, wouldn't it be what's his name at the tower there at the heliport?
Yeah, Sean Boger is
actually. Yeah, Sean Boger. Would it be why? He's right there. Why would he say something?
Right.
And why?
He's right there.
And why would the order a helicopter to shoot a missile right there? I mean, if there's one thing that would like expose an inside job, if it were like you would see a military helicopter shoot a missile in front of everyone, how could anyone hide the inside job like that if that's even making
not just that, but why can you imagine being the pilot who actually pulls the trigger? What has to go through his mind to think that's okay? That's a smart thing to do. You know what? We'll take this helicopter off. I'm point it to Pentagon and shoot a missile at it. What the fuck? Why not? Like, you know what? Even if he's ordered to do it, you're like, you know what? I don't think it's lawful order. I'm not going to obey that one.
I think it's a ridiculous.
Make a phone call to some doctors, you know, to turn. I think you need to go to Section 8. And it's like, oh, that's just so absolutely retarded.
It's her way of saying that Theory Mosjong was wrong. That's what all it is.
Right. Notice how
and I was a liar. And that's basically it. It's her way of saying.
In the conference, she basically says, "Yeah, Theory's wrong, but Chandler and Costi are even worse off wrong."
See, that's my point. Must confirm to hoax. Must confirm to hoax.
Exactly.
That's what McKee's all about. Must confirm to hoax. No such thing. Never been an example before it. You don't have Operation Northwoods right. You read it wrong. You're not even looking at the year of when that happens. It's not the same thing.
Actually, another helicopter actually landed at the heliport, which was from the United States Park Police. This came after the impact of Flight 77 hit the Pentagon. And they were the first people to evacuate people out of the Pentagon. So you had that too. But I noticed that, you know, she basically didn't mention that. Okay, now this next video I'm going to play is basically from a San Diego conference that was done back in 2018. And I'll let the
shameful San Diego, shameful San Diego.
But back to, here's another one. So I just want to remind you, what would happen if the Motley Rice lawsuit went forward? And I think there's something like 6,000 9/11 victims' family members in this lawsuit as plaintiffs. What happens if, remember all of those, at least 6, if not 8, alleged hijackers, 15 of the 19 allegedly Saudis, right after 9/11, in the 48 hours after 9/11, a whole bunch of them came forward and said, "Hey, a minute, I'm still alive." And they were interviewed by the BBC, etc. So what if the case goes forward and all the Saudis have to do is bring even one, if not multiples of those still alive alleged hijackers into the court in the ultimate Perry Mason moment? So those are big problems with that Motley Rice lawsuit against Saudi Arabia, but nevertheless it's moving forward, and we're going to be talking about now what's important about what happened here in San Diego before 9/11 for that.
Well,
wow, that's interesting.
Don't even get me started. I've written a whole article
Wow.
about this because she said this like 2 years before in DC in a different conference, and it's just completely like insulting because she went over the whole idea of this is when she makes it really wrong. She gets into the Dulles Airport video, and she alleges that there was only one video released at the time, and there was really two. And then, this one really pisses me off because it's like there she is interrupting what we should be doing. Like, yes, we should be putting pressure on Saudi Arabia. I mean, she's shilling for Saudi Arabia, basically, in my eyes. That's the way I look at it.
But what
she's on the board of the lawyer committee. Which is supposedly the legal RE, and even though when she was talking there, she's supposedly maybe independent, but she's a board member and it's like one of the founders, I think, and she's trying to talk down the only real 9/11 truth case we have, the Grindler case, the information from the 28 pages about the Saudi funding.
Yeah,
and she's trying to paint that whole thing, that whole case, as this information. This person who's talking about like fake plays and all this nonsense. I mean, it's wow.
And she in the hijacker still alive scenario has been so debunked. I mean, Nelson, you've done a good job.
That's another thing of like for almost the last 20. I mean, debunked.
She wants Saudi Arabia to keep arming ISIS. I mean, she wants us to keep giving money to Saudi Arabia. Well, it's just, come on. It's like, I'm not saying they're the only one. I mean, we all of us here have looked into the other state sponsorships, but it's just, it's so aggravating.
Yeah, you know what she should do? Go get an interview with Nawaf Al-Hazmi.
Yeah.
Go get an interview with Khalid El-Madar
or their family members.
Or if they're alive, go interview them.
Yeah. Go find the motherfuckers.
Okay. Al-Amari is the big one, right?
Yeah.
Talk to Al-Amari.
Yeah. Hey, I always go back to this meme. I think it's Nelson's most valuable meme, and he's done so many.
Yes.
And, this is what we're talking about here, about alleged living hijackers with similar sounding names. In Arabic, there's a lot of similar names. Like, for example, Walid al-Shari. This is Walid Ahmad al-Shari. And you can see that the middle name is a lot different than Walid al-Shari. And it's Walid Ahmad al-Shari. And he's actually alive. He's actually in Morocco. This is the person who actually, by the way, this is the BBC article about the living hijackers at the time. They used Walid al-Shari's face, but they used this guy's testimony. He's actually
a Saudi Airlines pilot in Morocco.
Right, that is exactly right. Another example would be Abdul Rahman Al-Amari and Abdul Aziz Al-Amari. Guess what? He was in a hijacker for Flight 11, American Airlines 11, which crashed in North Tower. By the way, the person who was actually used as a face on the article is Abdul Aziz Al-Amari, but they used the testimony of this guy, Abdul Rahman Al-Amari, who's alive in Saudi Arabia. He's also a pilot.
Saudi Airlines, and there's another Saudi. I mean, it's like, how much suspicion is that? I mean, how do you get so many names even screwed up, ironically, as all Saudi Airlines pilots? I mean, come on. What?
Right. That's exactly the point. And, the truth community, some of them in the fringe movement especially, like to refer that the living hijack. By the way, I mean, just using common sense, 21 years later, nobody's actually interviewed an actual living hijacker because there are none. They're all dead. Why would you, by the way, why would you allow people who are supposed to be for the narrative, right, or for the narrative, remain alive? Wouldn't they be killed and ruin the story? I mean, why hasn't a truther or anyone in the media, legacy media, nationwide or foreign, has ever interviewed those people? None. They've interviewed these people who have similar sounding names to the hijackers themselves.
They found the living Al-Madar. His last name wasn't Al-Madar, it was Al-Mamadi. And he lived in Florida. I think he still had lived there. I mean, that was only reported through a Florida news media itself. They're the ones that made the mistake originally. It was a different photo. So it's like, it's not hard to figure out. There's stolen IDs. These hijackers, they operated sophisticatedly in human capability.
Basically, Nelson's research on this issue is really good. Barbara's research on this issue is really bad.
Yeah.
Basically, sum it up.
I'm not that I can't take credit for all of it either, because I got a lot of ideas and tips from other people, too. But it's just luck
your
beholden.
information.
But Ed also helped me too on other things, which is the unreleased security video from Dulles Airport, which I've had, and I've looked even further. I still have yet to put that out as public, but there's a lot of reality the truth movement's going to have to deal with once they see, that there were probably accomplices that helped these hijackers that even worked in the airport. So,
Sean, I want to get your thoughts about, because he said at the end about Motley Rice, the case is going to fail. Meanwhile, that was in 2018 when she gave this lecture. It's now 2022, and they actually got further than even, say, the Lawyers Committee for 9/11 Inquiry, because they're in the Southern District of New York, and they're still being heard.
Yeah. The only way that I think that they're failing is maybe not really going after the whole infrastructure in Europe and the Hamburg cell and all that. And I don't think it's a good idea that they're using Charles Burchard or whatever his name is, the former head of French intelligence, because they've been covering up terrorist groups for decades before. So it's like, but at least they got the Saudi Arabia part down, right?
Yeah, at least they did that. But you know what? They've been pretty good with 9/11 so far.
Yeah.
And so is Creedler and Creedler. So at this point, Sean, what do you make of it?
Well, is she implying that the 28 pages is a fake cover-up?
Oh,
is that where we're going with this?
Yeah.
It's almost as if we're really picking and choosing what we're going to say is actual cover-up and what we're going to say is disinformation. I feel like we're going around in circles personally when we pick and choose these certain topics to hover on and other topics to outright dismiss. It seems to me like we're just chasing our tails. That's my take on it.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny that the picking of it, like, okay, you will accept this, but they won't get into the stuff about the false Iraq pretext. But then once it talks about something that's controversial that they can show that the Bush administration is covering up, and it has to do with the hijackers, it has to do with the Saudis, they're just not interested. It's like, wait a minute. Why is there controversy? Why is the media putting it out there? Why is, this is all still part of what the victims' families wanted, the Jersey girls and all that. So,
Nelson, would you say that it almost looks like the mainstream media and the conspiracy / alt media are both avoiding something?
Yeah. In the end, they end up both. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
In this next clip, and this is probably my favorite clip I did last night in preparation for this video. Basically, this is the 2013 conference for her film, Behind the Smoke Curtain, or as Anthony Hilda would say, Behind the Wrong Curtain.
And we're getting into the proof of the timing. On the left in this photograph is the clock from that heliport firehouse. It was stopped by some violent event at 9:32 and 30 seconds. And guess what? That clock has been stopped at that very time in the Smithsonian Institution's official 9/11 exhibit, which you see here. The clock is on the flat table. It's the third object from the left, just to the left of Ted Olson's phone, in which he allegedly received calls from his wife, Barbara, from the Pentagon plane, which the Pentagon, the FBI, and American Airlines all say that it's a lie that phone was ever used to talk to his wife.
Okay, so just to add to that fact, I did a separate video about a month back about the phone calls and the misconception about these phone calls that were never made. So the FBI basically, in the Zacharias Moussaoui trial 2005, in the prosecution exhibits, you can actually download for yourself, where they basically used only one call that didn't last anything, was actually disconnected, that was coming from Barbara Honegge. There's 5 other phone calls that say unknown, don't know who it is. Now, I did a little bit of due diligence. I lined up all the time frames from those calls to match with the calls that were received by Ted Olson. And what I found was those were the exact same times Ted Olson got the call. And the reason why it says unknown is because she actually called collect. So in other words, she didn't have a number to use on the plane because she called collect with her. She had a card where she could make on the airphone. So most of those calls were airphone calls. And basically, when she passed through the operator patched her through to the secretary. I forgot her name. I think it's Lori something. And then she patched the call over to Ted Olson. All of those time frames match up at the same times that Ted Olson got the call. And that's Barbara Olson. Who else would it be? She mentions about the times on the clocks. By the way, those clocks are off by like 3 minutes, 2 minutes off from where the plane impacted. Like clocks can't be wrong. Those are turn clocks. And they're often usually held back after, like 20 years or whatnot. Goodness gracious. And she's nitpicking over here.
Yeah. And it falls
doesn't she believe at 9:32 there was an explosion at the Pentagon?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Adam, didn't you find a clock that actually matched the more of the official time?
2. I actually found a wristwatch and a clock.
Yeah, she's talking about a clock. She's talking about a clock, 1 clock. Yeah, like there's only 1 clock in the Pentagon.
So
singular.
She
does, to her defense, she does reference also the security footage timestamps and the clocks on those as well at some point. But again, it's not like they're connected to some, what do you call it, the main clock in England or whatever they call it. It's not like it's
the
connected
atomic
to some,
clock. Yeah,
the atomic
those wall
clock,
clocks are notorious for being off time. How many of those have you seen in your life? Guess what? They're always off.
Yeah, and especially if it falls down, it's going to knock it. It's going to move a little.
Exactly, especially if it falls the wall.
Yeah,
whatever.
I think John Wyndham made an experiment about that, or some truther did, about dropping the clocks, and they found out that the dials will move exactly like that just from dropping. So
see, exactly. And here's the thing. And here's the thing. Is the important thing is she tries to dismiss the phone call. This is just a dastard mistake. Not just because of like what I put it out in my film and the whole thing of saying, well, she's pointing out the Olsen phone call. So I guess she's not pointing out all the phone calls, because then you have Renee May, the stewardess, which is, I covered in my film. But the thing is that by dismissing it, she's taking the opportunity to destroy one of the greater myths of 9/11, because this is where the heart of the box cutter theory starts from. And if Ted Olson doesn't get that call, which at first he doesn't even say it's a box cutter. He says it was like plastic type knives. So if you don't even have that, so if she's not even making these calls, you're not going to be able to make the discernment. But more importantly, is like what I point out is that she's making these calls from the calling cards or calling collect, but she's telling the operators what the hell's going on, on the plane, and she says to the operator that the hijackers got guns and knives. Completely contrary. I mean.
And she also said there were 6 hijackers.
Yeah. Well, no, that's not her. That's what I was going to say. It's the stewardess. The stewardess says, Honegge. I mean, Barbara Olson doesn't. She doesn't say that.
Sorry.
But she does give.
Nelson, isn't that Mercy Lorenzo that makes that statement?
I believe so. Yeah.
The AT&T operator said there's guns and knives.
Yeah. And all of it's important because it's like even with Barbara's the rest of the conversation, the details saying that everybody got pushed to the back of the plane. With the pilot. When you go and look at the way the DNA was dispersed upon, the reverse engineering, the plane wreck crashing into the Pentagon, you can even see that the herd remains and the pilot's remains were further to the back of everything blasted out. Mm-hmm. So it coalesces. So.
Let's see what else he has to say.
Burning question before us, and this was the question I asked myself over this past year. What violent event, because it had to be a violent event of some kind, at or near the heliport, where heliport firefighter Ellen Wallace had just backed one of the heliport fire trucks out in preparation for President Bush's expected arrival. What was it that stopped the heliport firehouse clock at 9:32 and 30 seconds? Especially when the official story claims that Flight 77 was miles and miles still outside of Washington, D.C. and wouldn't even approach the building for 5 minutes and 16 more seconds at almost 9:38,
9:37.
technically at 9:37 and 46 seconds. What stopped the heliport clock? Multiple witnesses state that at 9:32 and 30 seconds, now they don't give the time, you infer that from the combination of the converging evidence of the witnesses' testimony that I'm giving you now and the stop clock of the heliport. Multiple witnesses, including those two firefighters from the heliport firehouse itself, state that a white low-flying plane, and if it's a white plane, it cannot be any American Airlines civilian airliner, which are polished aluminum, so they're silvery. They're definitely not seen as white. But all these witnesses were very clear that it was a white low-flying plane approached the Pentagon on a south path. In other words, south of that center line, to the right of that center line, coming in at a diagonal, south of Navy Annex path, and hit, dragged, or scraped. As you'll see, they used those different words, but for the same event, hit, drag, scraped its left wing at or near the helipad just before bursting into an immense fireball. And as I mentioned, as American Airlines bodies are polished silvery aluminum, this plane simply could not have been Flight 77, an American Airlines polished aluminum body.
Okay, and she's going to bring up these witnesses. I'll let it play on.
Witness Jim Sutherland saw a white twin-engine plane with multicolored horizontal stripes flying an estimated 50 feet, he believed, above I-395 in an almost straight line approach towards the building on a south path. Pentagon heliport firefighters, as we've already seen, their names are Alan Wallace and Mark Skipper, are direct witnesses to a white plane approaching the heliport and exploding into a massive fireball near the firehouse, which would have killed them had they not noticed it at the last second and literally run. One of them, Alan Wallace, ran away as he saw it coming in. He thought maybe 200 and 250 feet from him, which is difficult to estimate because it's coming right at him, to his left. As he walked with his back out from behind by that fire truck, he was very clear that he looked to his left, which was to the south, and it was coming right at him at that diagonal angle. And it would have killed him had he not immediately run out of the way to save his life and rolled under a van that was, you'll see that van in a moment, that was parked outside the wall of the heliport firehouse. And Mark Skipper, the other firefighter, ran out onto the lawn to the north or to the left and literally leapt away, and they did survive.
Wow, that's a lot to unpack right there.
I got something for you, Adam. So she says that it's a silver plane and that it shouldn't look white. That's what she's basically saying. Well, the image she shows looks white to me, but it also occurred to me that if it's a reflective surface, it's going to bounce light, and reflected light looks white anyway. And that's why they think there's a pod. That's why they think there's a pod on 175 because of reflected white light. So either way you slice it, it's a white plane.
It was a bright sunny day.
Isn't the nose cone also white on those planes?
It would
nose cone. I think it's white.
Coming towards a white building like the Pentagon.
Well, also too, the way light works is that when light reflects off a surface, it actually bounces back the color of the surface it's reflecting off of. So the light would actually bounce back as silver, but when you're looking at light in that respect, it's going to look very, very. It's going to be basically white. It's going to be blown out from an observation, but it's it's because it is a reflective surface like a mirror. Yeah, you're getting the reflective. Well, it actually changes the surface, the surface color actually because of the light. So it's well. Let's ignore that part. Let's get down to the nitty gritty of the whole freaking thing. I mean, it's just like stupid. I mean, holy shit! I don't even know where to begin. So the plane flies to the heliport and then bursts into flames, but there's no momentum to carry the energy of it forward anywhere, and then it like disappears. What I don't understand, poof, and just like instantly spontaneously combust into like some other dimension. I don't know what the hell she's talking about. I don't know why she's. I mean, for God's fuck's sake, man, it's like, does she even think this stuff through? Yeah, and there was something else she said about. What was it? There's some. She totally scrambled my brain there. It was so bad. It was so ridiculous. Yeah, it's just there's so much there. I darn, there was something in there I was wanting to do. I was going to stop, but it wasn't going to be that long. But now I forget what it was. Anyway, I'm sure you guys have your own 2 cents to put in there.
Well, for God's sake, she basically ignored the dozens and dozens of people who actually specifically state that they saw an American Airlines plane.
Right? Yeah. Thank you.
Jesus
Thank
That's
Christ.
the big one.
Goodness gracious. Now, what does she say to that, right? That's
Yep.
like CIT ignoring every single buyer that saw the plane coming in from the north. Was it the north? What do they claim? It's south or north?
North.
Thank you. They claim north.
Yeah.
So all the people that said basically south are ignored. And basically all the people that saw American Airlines, according to Honegge, are ignored. So I'm like, and what about all the American Airlines debris that's laying on the outside?
That's one thing.
But she has direct witnesses. According to her.
Direct witnesses.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
Jim Sutherland, basically in the John Judge and Penny Schroeder list, which has the list of entire people that were there at the Pentagon. Jim Sutherland never claims to see a white plane, and neither does Mark Skipper and Alan Skipper and
Alan Wallace.
Wallace.
Yeah, well, thank you, Alan Wallace and Mark Skipper. There's another third fireman from Fort Myer, and I forget his name. They all basically said they saw an American Airlines plane. So, and by the way, remember those witnesses? She never references where she got those statements from.
Right.
That's another point.
Yeah.
I don't see any white fuselage skin all over the lawn.
Yeah, where's the engines on the lawn and all the parts? Ignore the problem. All the jet parts are found inside the building. No, and I don't know. She's just Sansi so debunks herself and. Nice thing about it is she debunks the CIT people because he's very adamant about the plane coming in on a south path.
Yeah.
And this should drive Craig McKee and those people crazy because they all insist that everyone saw it on north path. And I don't know, it's so silly.
It's what happens when you're like McKee, you're invested into the light pole catapult. You have this special device that throws light poles. And just for some random reason, and it goes into a taxi cab. So there was something out there to throw fucking light poles, because light poles can't be knocked down by a plane or by the wings. Nothing. It's got to be done by somebody.
Yeah.
Well, wouldn't it be impossible, like with her explosive theory? What was the shape of the damage in front of the Pentagon? It had exhibited wing-shaped damage, right? That'd be pretty hard for explosives to show wingspan damage. That would be a really sophisticated explosives to mimic that.
Well, not just that, but she's going to actually, she's going to actually discredit her own plane theory because she's going to later on discuss how there's no huge plane parts and therefore no plane.
Yeah.
So it's like,
that's the whole problem with the Pentagon thing with truthers, is they bitch about, there's not enough debris in the lawn. Well, there's a lot of debris, but
there is.
You got to think there's a lot of debris inside that building. Now that means you have to prove that all those first responders in there are lying or planting evidence. Okay, and you can't do that. It's impossible.
No, they can't show a crumpled up Flight 175 and Flight 11 down on the sidewalk next to the wall, the exterior wall of the building. No, it went into the fucking building.
Yes.
And the really funny thing is that they're not bothered that they contradict each other. Like Craig McKee and Barbara Honegge, they work together, but they completely debunk each other's theories. Craig thinks the plane went in on the north path and went over the building, and Barbara Honegge says no, everyone saw it coming on the south path, but it crashed on the lawn. but they never argue. They never duke it out. It's like who has the right theory. They're bothered by they debunk each other. Just as long as you have a theory that's not the official story, it's okay. But there's no
So,
evidence
yeah.
for it, and they debunk each other. That's okay. It doesn't bother them, and they don't
So
argue about it. That it's not in public much. It's just
Right.
I don't know. It's just
So
Yeah.
in conclusion, you have around 9:32, a helicopter taking off from the heliport, and then shooting a missile at the Pentagon while a white plane flew and hit the ground and exploded, and then coming from a south side approach. Meanwhile, the witnesses, within 3 seconds of each other, by the way, and the witnesses there at the heliport didn't see the missile being shot from the helicopter, but saw the white plane exploding, but then disappeared because there wasn't enough plane debris to support a plane, but it was there.
Right. That's about sums it up.
Well, here's the thought. You already have a missile. It's called Flight 77. Why don't you just use that?
Yeah, it make a great second. It makes a great second floor and bottom floor hole.
You have a plane going 556 with 77,000 pounds of fuel. Yeah, that's a bomb. That's a missile.
Exactly.
Like that's going to cause a lot of damage.
Yeah.
Simon, to bring up your point about Honegge and McKee, and they disagree. Well, at least they both can agree that Chandler and Costley are wrong, right? And this goes back to this goes back to my point. Like if it represents the official narrative, any theory, even so irrational, will always be accepted because it's against the official narrative. And I think that's
but one of those days their followers must see that Craig McKee is absolutely sure that all the witnesses saw the jet on a north path and it went over the building, while Honegge says it's on a south path and it crashed on the lawn. So it's absolutely clear that one of them has to be a bullshit artist. It's absolutely clear, but they're not bothered by both of them saying these completely contradictory things. So as long as they're not supporting the official story, so it's okay. Let's not bother them. So
right, I think that's the main point here.
Yeah. Without any parameters defined on what is the official version, as far as like your initiation to the truth movement or being a truther. It's like, is it over the Pentagon? No, it's pretty much always been around the World Trade Center. And that's pretty much where everyone's agreed that, and that's where everyone's been focused at. And I can understand that, and I how I feel about it now is different. But anyway.
Yes, I don't get that either. It's like some truthers, they believe that flights 11 and 175 hit the towers, but they can't get over flight 77 hit the Pentagon. So if they're using planes for the towers, why wouldn't they use planes for the Pentagon?
And why would they outfit them with a remote control and then fly it over the building?
Does it make sense?
Well, those are the people. If you find those, Darren, those are the people that are easily going to like watch Chandler or Costay's work because they just want to get it over with. Right. But that is weird that people can linger on and hold that for over a decade. It is. I know.
Well, the next video I'm going to play is the final video, and it's also from the 2013 presentation she made in Washington.
And by an amazing coincidence, this is a side note, but I think an important one because it talks to the passengers. By an amazing coincidence, in the Pentagon rubble, the official story claims that there just happened to have been found 5 unidentified body remains that the government presumes were the hijackers. But that happens to be the very same number 5 that the government claims were unidentifiable remains that it assumes are not the hijackers, which, just to be sure that no one could ever be sure that they were one and the same, they re-incinerated and dumped into a landfill. According to the Pentagon's own spokesman, there weren't any victims, however, or any plane parts outside the C-Ring exit hole at all. Terry Mitchell of the Office of Assistant Secretary of Defense for Public Affairs Audiovisual Division, who was given immediate access, he was an insider, to the AE drive to take the Pentagon's own official photos, answered media questions about a photo of the C-Ring hole that he showed at the September 15th Pentagon's own press conference. And he stated this, for the official record, quote, "There is a hole." Yes, he was asked about this alleged exit hole. He said, yes, there's a hole in the C-ring. They suspect, he doesn't say who they are, they suspect that this was where part of the aircraft came through. Although, personally, he was physically there. He says, I didn't see any evidence of an aircraft down there. This pile outside the hole, he said, is all Pentagon metal. None of that is from aircraft whatsoever. This is Pentagon's own spokesman. As you can see, he continues, they've punched a hole in here. This was punched out for the rescue workers to clean out the debris.
Days later.
And here you see the hole again, and it's a little bit difficult to see, but to the left of that hole is an upside down A with a cross across it, and the words punch out. They were added after the hole was made, by the way. Well, guess what? The inverted A is the International Personal Rescue System symbol for dead victim removed. This hole was made for the exit of Pentagon personnel and the entry of rescue and cleanup teams.
Right. Now, I just want to stop it there and basically say that there's that's a deceiving photo is because the plane debris outside the A&E drive hole is basically in fragments. There's a better picture actually shows a piece of the fuselage right out there, as well as the wheel, the steering wheel.
Oh yeah, that's,
Yeah.
that's all pieces of building and plane. That's it. You know, it's everything. You know.
And why does that punch out hole have fire soot on the top of the wall? If that was punched out by the rescue workers.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, the other
maybe they were punching it out during the fire, or was it punched out after the fire, trying to get access, or if it was punched out during the fire, maybe I can understand why smoke was coming up through there. But I just find that to be interesting.
You know what always annoys me about that is them always showing that is that they don't show that on that same ring there are still two other spots where debris exited out and caught on fire. That's
right.
You know, that's not even congruent with it, but it's in that direction still.
Right.
But they don't ever show it. Like, oh, what the fuck made that?
Right.
So here's a picture of, you know, the whole talk about, as you can see, look, this is
the ones in the back behind, the
right.
where the smoke's exiting in the back.
Here's your tire. Other plane debris, and this is just one picture. I could show many, but I mean, all you have to do is Google plane debris exit hole, and you can see it for yourself. I mean, this is noticeable. Look, the tire is right there.
Again, she cherry picks certain photos to fit a narrative that she's explaining.
Right,
Of course.
exactly.
Everything she does is cherry picked.
Exactly.
Everything.
And I think that's
Being deceptive, yeah.
Who cares? Yeah, but who cares about the passengers? Who cares? They're just
Cares about the
there.
families.
Yeah. Get mad at the government. The government.
Here's more.
The government.
Now, the official story also claims that
Oh, geez.
Flight 77, a large Boeing 757, coming in very low at approximately 540 to 560 miles per hour, hit 5 light poles in a row, there they are, without exploding. The Boeing 757 could not
I know,
have
my God. I mean,
Go
remember
ahead,
that
Nelson.
time when remember that incident before where that plane hit light poles and exploded, and then it just didn't happen? Oh my God. What the fuck where do you come up with that? Could she just say that this just chalantly, like, it didn't explode? Shouldn't we have expected it to explode? What? No. It's going to just bend and pop right off, or
Exactly. We should think
like
they're
me
bombs or something.
It'd be like me kicking over a toothpick.
Yeah. Hard weather could take down those poles. When a car goes through, it just like punches right out the bottom, and that's what it looks
They're
like.
designed to break away.
That's right.
So I just want to bring this up real quick, and I'm going to share this link. I mean, of this site here, because these are the light poles that she's mentioning. These are Shakespeare breakaway light poles, and they're actually meant for roadside installation vulnerable to vehicle impacts. Back in 1970s and 80s, these poles were actually made out of pure steel. And what happened was they found out through the 1970s, 80s in the Northeast especially, because we have different light poles as opposed to out west, in the Northeast, we had a lot of drunk driving accidents where cars would actually go off on the road in the freeways and actually crash in these poles, killing the driver immediately. So they
Yeah.
started breaking these Shakespeare breakaway light poles in the 1990s, and they basically, saved a lot of lives in doing so. I just wanted to show that here too, and that's why you didn't see. So when the plane actually hit the light poles, they actually broke off right at the base, which they were designed to do. I see that she doesn't mention anything about that.
I thought they got shot out of a helicopter.
That would be bad. Yeah.
Light
That'd be
pole,
great.
according to an expert I'm about to quote for you, let alone 5 in a row, and even made it to the wall without exploding. Why? Because the official story means that a 757, Flight 77 or otherwise, would had to have had still 11,250 gallons of flammable jet fuel in its wing tanks. Most people don't know, I certainly didn't until I did this research, that the largest, or two of the large, almost as large as the center fuselage tank. This is a graphic from Boeing's own website of its 757-200 series, which is what Flight 77 was. And this is flammable material, the jet fuel that is located in the 2 wing tanks, including tanks off to the way tips. And experts have told me, including Ralph Kolstad, who flew this very plane, he was very clear that the fuel in the center or fuselage body tank is used up first. And the official story says that Flight 77 or a 757 went out and turned around and came back. And before it hit the Pentagon, it was only out for an hour and 17 minutes. And it would have used the fuel from the center fuselage tank. And the tanks in the wings would have been flying fuel bombs. And the official story says that the leading edge of those 2 wings that are filled still with fuel, according to the official story, hit 5 240-pound light poles like this in a row. When the impact, I found this wonderful image of a single flying bird does this to a wing. And here's an example of what a single flying goose does to the lightweight carbon fiber nose of a plane.
This is pure. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
And as I mentioned, I interviewed Ralph Kolstad, the Top Gun Navy pilot who flew the physical plane that was Flight 77 on 9/11. He said, if a 757 hit a light pole going at that high speed, it would rip open the wing, rip open the fuel tank in the wing. That wing would erupt into flames. The wings and probably the entire plane with it would have been destroyed before it could ever get to the building. When a leading edge of a wing of this jet...
Yep, I got you.
Look, the whole bird thing, that was total Morgan Reynolds. That was embarrassing. Go ahead, Ed, I'm sorry.
That's all right. So I have so Ralph Kolstad, he's a former Vietnam fighter pilot. He was an instructor and flew commercial airlines as well, like 20 some years. I have a very good friend of mine who was also a Vietnam fighter pilot, flew F-105 and F-4s, and he was also a commercial airline pilot, flew for TWA. And I asked him about this particular pilot's claim with respect to 9/11 and the light poles. And my friend said, just because you're a pilot doesn't mean you're sane, number one. Number two, he said, that a 200,000-pound aircraft will take down those light poles and not even think twice about it, not even feel it. It wouldn't be nothing for that to happen. And number two, he also said that this particular pilot evidently has flown way too many hours and zero visibility, meaning he's had his head stuck up his ass. And then he went on to say that tell this woman that he knows of a doctor who can increase her lithium dosage or to help with her insanity. That's his quote.
So Ed, let me ask you, is this the only pilot that's ever said this about the lamp poles?
That it could be that the plane will ripped off, get ripped off. The only one I know. The only one other than I think some of the members of Pilots for 9/11 Truth, but Jeff Lattice is a
I talked to Jeff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he doesn't make he's like this is easy. It's like there's no way that that those light poles would have done any really significant damage to those aircraft flying at that speed at that mass. So it's like it's ridiculous.
I've
And he
got-
also went on to, and Jeff Labs also said that the corkscrew turn of the turn is something they learn in the first day in flight training. It's very common.
It's not even a corkscrew. It's just like,
Yeah, you have to be able to turn around to be able to come in for a landing. You do. a turn.
yeah, they avoid. Here's the main thing. Here's the main thing they avoid. They avoid to mention that whole turn took 3 fucking minutes. Took 3 minutes to do that turn. That's how long. It's not just like 30 seconds. No, 3 whole minutes. Think how wide and slow that turn is to do 3 minutes.
Right.
You know, but I was gonna say is that I even have a photo of a parked plane moving and it knocked down a light pole.
Right. It's just insane.
I mean,
Does
sure.
the video-
If the plane didn't knock down the light post, she's asserting something else.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, here's the main thing that tells you everything she thinks about flight 111 and 175. She must think must have been some reinforced something because it shouldn't have gone in through, it shouldn't have cut through the goddamn building. Because she's using, Morgan Reynolds, same logic with the birds, or look, this is what happens
That's
when
right.
it goes to a plane. That's what
exactly
Morgan
right.
Reynolds' big shtick was no plane, I've got video of Morgan Reynolds doing one of his first speeches about the no plane theory, and there she is. She's there. She's there in the audience.
So is the plane supposed to bounce off the building? Is that what they're implying?
Yeah.
just like, but the bird isn't supposed to bounce off the plane. Yeah.
Right.
So it's like, if you imagine the plane being the bird in this case hitting the building, well, the bird being the bird hitting the plane being the building. It's like
point.
it's they're proving their own point.
Right.
Wrong.
Yeah.
They're contradicting themselves.
It's Morgan Reynolds crap right there, straight up. And that just tells you everything.
Right.
Hit just a single light pole. It sheared the wing entirely off, spilled jet fuel and wreckage over 100 feet, and crashed the plane to the ground. When the same thing happened to a large airliner, now that plane was smaller than a 757, but when the same kind of thing happened to a large airliner like Flight 77, which was in Detroit in 1987, 18 feet sheared off the left wing, which is the one that hit the light pole, when it hit 2 light poles, going at only 222 miles per hour, which was less than half the reported 540 to 560 miles per hour that Flight 77 was allegedly going when it allegedly hit 5 light poles in a row.
Why
wings or
why did she not mention what flight that was in Detroit?
Right.
She just says a flight. I mean, I could say that. Yeah, there's a flight that went 200. She doesn't even mention the flight, the time. That's weird. I'm sorry. That's a red flag.
Normally you're supposed to put the flight and the incident and all that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't believe her. No.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like anybody can say that. Where's her evidence to back it up? Is there an article that shows that this what happened?
That's what you would. I would imagine.
Morgan Reynolds' website probably.
But I mean, for goodness gracious, I mean, look, like I said, by the way, I was looking up the plane crash in Detroit. I think she's referring to Con Air Flight 3272, which was a flight from Cincinnati to Detroit while on approach for landing southwest of Detroit. It killed all 29 people on board.
Was that being piloted by Nicolas Cage?
Nicholas, yes, that's him.
Con Air.
But I don't know what, basically, like I said before, the breakaway light poles were the Shakespeare breakaway light poles were implemented in the 90s. So, they don't take into effect that, small, minuscule things like this make up for a large piece of the history that we saw on September 11th. And they don't actually want to hear anything outside of the fringe narrative, because that means we're agreeing to the official narrative, which has to be, opposed at all costs. I just think that's the problem. I think that's the problem with Barbara Honegge or Richard Gage. The last two people we, critiqued on is that the reason why we're doing videos like this is to show the other side of the fence that they're not showing you. And it's disingenuous at best. No, I mean, would you agree to a certain
absolutely.
extent?
Absolutely.
Sure.
I mean, I don't know what else to say. I mean, look, why is Barbara Honegge doing this in the first place? Like, why is she disingenuous? And why is she showing just a very encapsulated view of 9/11, which is basically from the fringe to the just,
Why is she protecting the foreign elements behind the attacks?
That's a
Period.
great point.
That's it. This is it's just like almost treasonous to me,
Yeah,
Well,
I'm kind of the same way with Nelson. Sorry, Adam.
No, go ahead.
With Simon giving me a lot of information on Honegge to read up on, just her past, which we'll get in here in a little bit.
Yeah.
Her past always seems to be like she wants to play the hero. She wants the spotlight. I want the spotlight. Focus me.
Mm-hmm.
You can go back to, to the Reagan administration with the October surprise, the Iran Contra, to even blaming Bush and Rumsfeld for 9/11 having, a role in it. She's always she was behind those three controversies. And now with the Pentagon, it's like, I almost feel like she wants to be the one. I solved it. It was a government conspiracy. I told you guys, look at me. I won. I'm the greatest. That's what I get from her. That vibe. Like the focus is me, and that's how I feel.
Yeah, she's using 9/11 and for the
correct.
Yes.
Correct.
Completely.
Well, now here's the next question for everybody here, and I'd like to get your thoughts on it. Is she doing this intentionally or not?
I think it's more of a psychosis.
Yeah, because the more when you start reading about her past, the more you read about her past and what she did with the Octopus Prize, and before that, the psychic research, you realize that it's really hard to say whether or not she knows the difference between what's real, what's not real. Like full for what I'm not even sure. Like it's possible that she thinks that she's being truthful. People have to see some of the things she did in the past to understand what I'm talking about. But I mean,
I think it's intentional.
Yeah, and we'll go over her past here after we're done with this because we want to give the audience.
We could do that now, Darren, because that's all the videos we have.
Oh, we're almost at what, an hour and a half already right now, right?
Yeah, I think it's important for us to talk about her past.
Sure.
Simon's giving me some good information. Starting, when she was young, she wrote an article stating that she thought she was psychic at 3 years old because she was able to basically say, hey, my best friend, she's getting a bike for her birthday before they even brought it, and how she was able to predict that. So that's at 3 years old. So just going through that at that age and recognizing that, I think that's a little weird, in my opinion.
Yeah. I look, I mean, maybe some people aren't very academic and outgoing in school, and I understand, but she comes from like a family, like she was a family like that already. I mean, she was very heavily into 4-H. I don't know if you guys know what 4-H is.
No.
And how would you explain 4-H, Ed?
Oh, 4-H?
Yeah.
It's sort of like
it's like pre-Future Farmers of America. I know that.
Something like that. Yeah, exactly. It's agriculture. It basically deals with it's like an agricultural club.
Yeah.
It readies kids of a young age, in their, between, maybe 8 years old on up to their early teens or whatever, to begin to take on a life on working in agriculture.
Yeah.
and learning how to farm and things like that. And then later on, you get into things like Future Farmers America, the Future,
Yeah.
exactly, the FFA and things like that.
Yeah, I went to 4-H for a year or two, and it wasn't even. And I was when I was looking up Barbara Honegge, she was very, heavily into that. I did cattle myself, and she was doing cows and stuff. So, my point being is that some people try to even say that these things are like secret societies in a way. I know like a lot of people like to go in that route because I've heard people suspect that she could be a Mason or she could be, Morning Star. But I did notice that she is like one of those people who would speak at the Kiwanis Club when she in Central California when she was where she's from. So
well, I think that in her defense, though, those smaller communities like that,
yeah,
those type of clubs and organizations are very, very big in those communities.
Yeah.
So I could totally see. I mean, gosh, I was where I grew up. We had FFA was huge. 4-H was huge. The Kiwanis Club was huge. Optimus Club, the Eagles, Moose
Yeah.
Lodge, all those organizations are like the kind of like the center of the community.
Yeah.
And all depending on where your status is at in the community will depend on which club you belong to.
Exactly. So yes, and that's what I'm saying. That's the kind of status she comes from, basically, because she elevated like that, and obviously got into all this stuff in college and going to the Bay Area, and then I don't know how she landed into the State Department or the I forget which department.
Now as far as like that type of upbringing, I don't know. I don't think it has anything to do with. I think her. And this is us talking. We're not trying to do a mental health evaluation here or anything like that.
Yeah,
but just trying to understand like
personality
why.
wise. Yeah,
trying to understand why this person is in this movement with her background, making ridiculous claims, and then and knowing that. And there's the thing, she's taken advantage of a lot of people who because of her background, coming from she came from the Reagan administration.
Yeah.
Oh wow, look at that! Look,
she got a publicity. She's got a publicity revenue.
Yeah, look, world, look who we have on our side.
She's a whistleblower from the Reagan administration. That's the kind of the myth behind her. Right. Whistleblower hero with the October Prize book. Right. A lot of people think she's credible. No. It's
not true. It's not true.
Yeah. So I think her. So I think where she got really her I guess a lot of her leanings, I guess you could say, was primarily, I think maybe, or it may have been, I think it was her college years, like the whole Stanford Research Institute period. Being part of that, because you had people like Russell Targ, who was part of that, and you had
he was her mentor.
Yeah, and you had this whole thing going on during that period where they were studying up on all this parapsychology and things like that, and it was new. It was something new, and then she was a part of it. Yeah. And then that gives you a false sense of importance. And then she's able to look back on her past and look at all these different coincidences, like the bicycle story and the feather story, and then go, oh look, I remember back then, and then she ends up writing about it and tries to make connections based on what she's learning at a particular point in her life, and then tries to make connections by looking back on her past and bringing it forward into what she's doing in that present time. And then that gives her like this, I don't know, it just gives her this weird sense of importance. I
think she doesn't mention much now that actually her master's is parapsychology. And she saw that group in the Stanford Research Institute and the group of people behind that. We're talking about, remember the movie, The Man Who Stared at Goats?
Yeah.
Which is basically Albert Stubblebine, General Stone.
Yes.
She was not part of SRI. She was friends with those people, and Russell Targ was one of the guys running the program. She called him a mentor of sorts, So he was a boss, but a mentor figure. And she was involved. She was dating one of those people, and she was involved in those groups. And she was like a president of some society. And and she also thought she was abilities herself. She was not only part of this group. She thought she was one of the people with like special abilities. And
Yeah.
So she believed in that extrasensory perception, which is like a sixth sense. So I think she had like telepathy.
The Shining.
Yeah.
She got
Yes,
Shining.
The Force.
So she was in.
Telekinesis. That's what she claims to possess.
Yeah.
But I want to read something real quick.
Yeah.
Go for
Okay.
it.
So Ed mentioned the whole feather story with her. I think it was a professor. Was it Professor Moat? I think it was, or Mott.
Something like that.
Simon, I don't know if you know which one I'm talking about, but something about his cat killed a bird and the feather dropped.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And it was supposed to represent some kind of Egyptian god, the Egyptian Moat. Yeah. And that was a tell from that feather because her professor was Professor Moat. So to piggyback off the Egyptian thing, I just want to read this. She said that she wore a scarab, which is Egyptian, like Egyptian necklace. She was the first graduate in experimental psychology at JFK University. She advised Ronald Reagan to decide against using underground shells of ABX missiles because psychics would target them. Okay. Sounds like Jean Grey from X-Men. She had him put 5,500 additional warheads on our 33 nuclear submarines because psychic brainwaves are absorbed by the churning sea. Despite all this, she was ushered out of the White House. So,
dude.
So this right here. So this right here, this is the person telling us about the Pentagon. That's scary.
She got Reagan to put 3,500 additional warheads in a particular location. Yeah, she was the one who did that.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Mr. President, I think you should put 3,500 additional nuclear warheads under the submarine so psychics can't see them.
But let's say she did.
Yeah.
But let's say she did. What kind of person does that make her?
She gave the advice. We don't know if it was heated, but that's the advice she gave.
Yeah.
That's what we know.
That's through psychic brainwaves. So
that sounds like being staring at goats crap, dude. That's what it sounds like. It sounds totally like that. And I noticed that when they booted her out or when she quit and she tried to get her job back, apparently with the sexist claim with the Reagan, they were calling her the Munchkin. Like literally, they were calling her like a Munchkin. Yeah.
Sean, let me get your opinion, Sean, on Barbara Honegge. What have you always thought about Barbara Honegge, throughout this 9/11 journey?
Did no plan her. I haven't thought about her much at all because she hasn't been very relevant until very recently.
I mean, that's probably the best assumption of it, right? Just a few words, right to the point. That's it.
I don't blame them.
I mean, I'll never ever forget the clip. Sean and everybody here knows about it. It's Anthony Hilder introducing Barbara Honegge, and I gotta play this clip because I think this about sums it up right here, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm gonna actually play the clip. Everybody here knows what I'm talking about because I can actually
Pay
see
attention
their
to
faces.
this. Pay attention to this truth movement.
Yeah, this is truth movement in a nutshell because of people like Barbara Honegge.
Behind the smoke curtain, I guess sort of like beyond the yellow brick road, or maybe behind it, in the city of Oz, where things happen and people are amazed, and there's storybooks that are written, munchkins and witches and all sorts of things. We're talking about the real crime behind the real curtain.
behind the real curtain. I mean, that just sums it up right there. I mean,
What's with the Wizard of Oz already? What we're talking about Munchkins back in the 80s. And
Well,
bringing up the
look,
Wizard of
I mean,
Oz
should we just show the photo of the photo I found today in the newspaper with?
Oh my
I mean,
God!
it spells it all out.
I think we gotta, because when I saw that, Nelson, I was like on my deathbed over here.
Shut
and
up.
I couldn't believe what you found. But then again, I can't believe half of the stuff you find. But this basically is probably the greatest photo I think I've ever seen regarding anyone in the truth movement. And this is Barbara Honegge. I'll have to open up the photo and then show everybody.
Yeah.
The photo that you sent me this morning. And there she is.
Zoom that.
This is Barbara Honegge in an Easter uniform.
Yeah, buddy uniform.
Look
Yeah,
at
for a get well soon, Reagan, after he got shot.
I mean, why wouldn't you get your 9/11 information from the Easter Bunny?
Yeah, I mean, this is her. I mean, this is a zoom photo of her, but she is in front of like all the White House staff. You
Yeah.
can see hundreds of people, and none of those people are dressed up like bunny rabbits.
Yeah, as I was saying, she's the only one dressed up.
Yeah, she's the only
Yeah.
one dressed up.
It's not a costume party.
Yeah,
No, it's not like it's Halloween or Easter. It's like a regular.
you know, you want to talk about going down the rabbit hole. There's the
Come on,
rabbit hole.
kids, follow me.
She's not actually. I read the article because she said that at the end of the article, you can see it. She's not concerned that old political foes might distribute reprints of the infamous bunny costume to discredit her. The photo, she said, just shows she has a sense of humor. So, is her 9/11 some presentation just based on humor?
Basically.
Is that it?
Yeah, basically, when you can go to this far, you'll go this, you know. I mean, look, I can understand myself. I come from a weird background too, you know, but I've been able to catch on to like the conspiracy theories do like they do attract the people who are odd or you know have a certain kink or whatever, you know, whatever you want to call it. And she, you know, yeah, it fits with her, and it's like, and for myself, I like I snapped out of that because it's like you find out, you start to see that like all these conspiracy, this shadow government conspiracy idea is just not fucking true. It's just, you know, even the overkill with 1984 and stuff like that, you know, police state and all that, you know, I don't buy into all that completely either, you know. I mean, definitely not. I mean, maybe not with the intelligence as far as the NSA and stuff like that, but not to this paranoid level that she, you know, that's part of that whole, you know, conspiracy worldview narrative. So,
You think when she was escorted out of the White House, she left by going through the wall?
Is that true? I mean, is that?
No, I'm just kidding. That's
No.
not true.
That's a stubble bind.
Cracking jokes. That's all.
yeah.
I shouldn't
I
be,
just
but
wanna-
I am.
I just want to bring up something before I think we could talk about the October surprise real quick and her
Yeah, please.
and her people that she used. But I think Simon brought this out too. She was like the originator of the space beams. Before Judy Woods.
Yeah,
was.
that's the
Yeah,
October
yeah.
surprise book.
Oh,
yeah.
shoot! Tell us about it.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot. Yeah.
Simon, do you have some more background? I just know that I think Nelson had an article pull up say how she used the Force regarding Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Well, it comes from let's talk about how she ended up in the White House. She was at Stanford working there, and she got a job with the Hoover Institution, which is there, which at the time was basically Reagan Propaganda Center. And this is the people promoting the Star Wars and all that stuff. This is the propaganda center for that. And her boss, what was his name? Martin Anderson.
Martin Anderson, yeah.
And then he got promoted to become working for Reagan in the Reagan campaign. And when Reagan won, she went with Martin Anderson over to the White House. That's how she ended up there. And so she has a background. I mean, the people behind her, first it's the psychic research people, and then it's the Reagan propaganda and the Star Wars and all that. And in her October Surprise book, one of the things she says is that when Reagan was inaugurated after he won, she said that she thought the sky was cleared up using a space beam weapon.
Yeah.
Because it had cloudy skies and they were cleared up, so sun would shine on him. That was one of the things in her October Surprise book, is just kind of put in there with other stuff. So yeah.
So it had nothing to do with the fact that it was just a nice sunny day.
Yeah. It had to be hard. Had to be
No,
hard.
it was controlled. It was controlled. Yeah.
Had nothing to do with
Just
the weatherman
casually
saying,
put in there.
"Hey, you know,
Yeah.
no chance of rain today," you know.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's important to go over her book for the October Surprise, because a lot of people in the Truth Movement give her credibility because they think she was this serious researcher, this White House insider, whistleblower that completely exposed the conspiracy. But what she actually did, I mean, there may or may not have been something true about the conspiracy or some version of it, but her book was intentionally or not, but her book was basically a textbook out of this information to discredit like a fantasy, because it was all her witnesses. He was so let's start with what the conspiracy was about. So it was about Iranian hostages being held
before the election.
Elections,
right?
Yeah,
because
so this
because
was
Carter was losing in the
Carter
polls
against Reagan.
Yeah, Carter was losing in the polls because of the Iran hostage situation, and it wasn't looking good. And there was always this whole idea. There's always the October surprise, which is something big happens, and then there gains to be more favor for that president, and it didn't happen.
Yeah, they were afraid that Carter would arrange to manage to get the hostages released before the election, so he would win. And so the conspiracy is about that Reagan officials made a deal to keep the hostages hostages until after the elections, and that's what actually happened. But
they let him go in inauguration once Reagan won. Yeah.
But there are, I mean, there were some. I mean, we know it's a fact that there were investigations that uncovered that the Reagan officials did conspire to they were following and monitoring what Carter was doing, and that may have sabotaged his efforts to make a deal to get him released before the elections. But Honegge's book, Reagan and his like a chief campaign manager, William Casey, I think, that they went on these secret trips to Europe, like in the middle of the campaign. There was one meeting in Paris, another in Madrid. And they themselves, like the big guys, went to make a secret deal in Europe to keep the hostages there. And Barbara's book was about all these alleged eyewitnesses that either flew them there or were there and saw them there. And later it turned out that they were all some of them had been busted like a part of a drugs thing, or they were caught selling arms. I forget which one. And some of them were just outright con artists. And one of them is maybe the most famous con artist ever, Oswald Lewinter. So the whole story in her book, her let's say her version of the conspiracy, was a complete fabrication by people who were just making up stuff.
So the
absolute total bullshit. So in the end, they got there were two investigations by the government. One by there was subcommittees, one by the Senate and one by the House. 1993, 94, and they both concluded after going over all these witnesses. And I remember I read the second one in 94, which is the House committee, which was chaired by Lee Hamilton, the guy who ended up chairing 9/11 Commission.
Yeah.
Yes.
They went over all the evidence, alleged evidence, including Honegger's book, and they interviewed the witnesses and and they found out, of course, that all these guys they were making up stuff. They found like hard evidence that proved that they couldn't have been there. They were somewhere else, and it was basically exposed that all the witnesses, they were just liars making up stuff. So they easily discredited the whole. Not only by discrediting her version of the conspiracy, they discredited the whole idea of the October surprise. So her book and what she did is actually like a textbook example of how you can use this information to ruin, like it may have been a true conspiracy in some way or some version of it, but it's like a textbook example of how to completely ruin and discredit a research field.
Absolutely.
And this person now, and this person is now chairing, well, not chairing, but she's one of the main persons in the lawyer committee for 9/11 inquiry, which is the legal arm of architects and engineers. So this person who basically ruined this whole research of the October surprise.
Yeah,
I mean, she ruined not only her book, because other research like Gary Sick, who's the most famous, they ended up using her witnesses, the people that she brought up to the research field. To make that truth movement, the October surprise truth movement, was ruined because they all ended up using people, alleged witnesses that she basically brought to the table, or famous with her book, and she was having like press conferences and stuff. So she ruined that truth movement, and now she's chairing, or she's like one of the main people in the lawyer committee for this person, and with her ridiculous Pentagon theory and other stuff. And people many truthers are taking her seriously because I think she's credible because she actually
has a book. She has a book that they don't even read. That they don't even read.
They don't know anything about it.
And it's a product. It must be real. It must be legit.
Yeah.
So we just go with it.
Yeah.
That's it. But they don't read the book. And they don't even bother to figure out what the fuck Iran-Contra was.
And I mean, it's not like you can even read about it just by going, because the main media covered that movement. Well, they went over the October surprise conspiracy and her book and everything, how it was uncovered in government investigations, and so you can get up like mainstream media sources that covered the whole thing. So I mean, she was kind of infamous for it, and no people have done any kind of research about her or her previous books, and not even mentioning the psychic. She doesn't talk about very much more. But yeah, it's and this is the person that's trying to say that the Kreindler laws, the Saudi funding, and that is that's the decision, that's a fake, and that what she's saying is the real 9/11 truth. I mean, it's funny in a way, but it's also it's sad. Yeah, it makes me pissed off to see it. I mean, it's really wrong in the worst way. And
the
thing is, I don't think that she has the mentality to realize this herself and retire. You may or may not know that April Gallup's former lawyer William Weil confronted her about her Pentagon thing and ended up asking her to resign from the lawyer committee and 9/11 truth in general, because not only about because her background research is nonsense and because she ignores rebuttals. So yeah, so this Barbara Honegger is the person that's like representing 9/11 truth, representing architects and engineers in court.
Yes.
Say they're going to court,
And she's
but
been
this is the
behind
person.
AE. She's been behind
Yeah.
AE for a long time. She paid for, I mean,
Yeah.
I've had David Schlesinger tell me she paid for the spotlight they had for Building 7. I mean, how do you get money like that to rent something? I mean, so part of that organization, I mean, it's originally starts in Northern California. She's been up there. That's where she's lived. So yeah, you know, she's keeping this, she's been part of keeping this machine, this, you know, this I call it almost the fear-mongering crisis management of InfoWars. That's what I see it. And it's like you can't keep that narrative anymore. Look what happened with Jones. Look what happened with Trump. Look at, you know, you have to change. It's time to change direction. It's time to clean up your act, you know.
The problem is that once you start talking about these kind of things, people get angry because they think we might be accusing her of being like a disinformation artist. I'm not even sure that she knows that she's maybe technically promoting misinformation. She may not seem, and we shouldn't even argue about that. It's enough for people to see her background and her track record, and they can see with the October Spice movement that she completely ruined it. And it doesn't matter if it was intentional or not. People can see it for themselves that she's not fit to put out research. She's not fit to represent any kind of truth movement. She's not in a committee. Yeah. And it's up to people, it's up to architects and engineers, and it's up to the lawyers in the lawyer committee to, I don't think she will ever be like resign on her own. William Wheel already confronted her and asked her to resign. She ignored it. So yeah. I think people will have to, like the lawyers there, will have to ask her to leave because I don't think she will ever do it on her own. But
yeah, I mean, like, what else has she got going on? What else does she got?
Yeah,
well, that's one of the reasons why we're doing this video. You know, because you know, we want people to understand. You know, if you're going to have her involved in your group, like your lawyers committee for 9/11 inquiry, A&E, et cetera, you need to know who you're dealing with. And if you want to, you have now they have the right to associate with whoever the hell they want to associate with. Just know who you're dealing with, and make sure that you're going to be associating with somebody knowingly and intelligently, and not just not just because they worked in the White House at one point and you think that's going to bring credibility to your organization.
And don't wait until
so did Morgan Reynolds. He worked in the White House. You know.
So the worst thing would be if the Kreindler case starts to go mainstream, and we end up having Barbara Honegger and her truth movement with their the hijackers or fake claims going directly undermining the
we have been screaming about that for a long time. And it's
so like the media would just be like a media clown horror show. And
they'd run the entire truth movement through a meat grinder.
So I'm hiring. I'm looking for money, Saudi lobby. You can pay me. I'll go on her side.
Didn't they do this back in 2006 when they were interviewing John Lear and Morgan Reynolds? I mean, that's the reason why they had him on in the first place.
Yeah.
Even Kevin Barrett back then, Jim Fetzer, that's who they allowed. And now with Simon, you know, this is something I try to illuminate as of recent times, is that fringe movement basically just seems to have gone away. But the one consistent voice that hasn't gone away is Barbara Honegger.
Yeah.
And my fear was that even if the lawyers committee basically did impanel a grand jury, she's basically going to have a voice in that. And God forbid if a grand jury has to hear Barbara Honegger or Jane Clark or Richard Gage at this point, it's a wrap. It's all over. And what will happen is that not only will it just label the lawyers committee as a bunch of, fringe conspiracy kooks, anybody else in the future who has any valid evidence of it, you know, this inside job or whatever, they're just going to be automatically labeled as a bunch of kooks, just like the lawyers committee.
Yep.
That's my only fear. But
We're-
And this
we'll
is-
We're at
this
2
is why-
hours. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
yeah, we'll
Yeah,
wrap
so,
up
yeah.
the video with that, and we'll see you in the next video when we critique somebody else, but we don't know who yet. So have a good night, guys.
Good night.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.